Hey everybody, welcome back to your next video. In this video we're going to be going ahead and talking about expense codes. Now the expense codes are very similar to the activity codes before that we spoke about. If you didn't see that video, definitely make sure you go check it out, because I'm not going to cover everything like I did in the activity code screen. I'm just going to cover some of the differences between expense codes and activity codes. We'll be going ahead and leave a link in the description, or maybe flash a card up top if you're on YouTube. Or if you're on our website, you can just simply click on the other video and it'll bring you right back to this section. So we're going to go ahead and talk about the expense codes. Let's go ahead and dive into that and let's get started. So I'm going to go ahead and close this activity code screen here. We're going to go to the view drop down once again, and we're going to head to the expense codes. Again, I will go ahead and reference the number of 5. Again, if you chose like CPA or attorney or something else, this might be known as cost codes or cost of goods services, or I don't know, something like that. So make sure you click on the number 5. That's what we're referring to here, is known as the expense codes. Again, we're not going to go through the wizard. We're just going to go ahead and go through it. Now, unlike the activity codes, there's no expense codes created automatically for you. There were some 4 basic codes to track the sick time, vacation time, and holiday time before in the activity code screen, but in the expense code screen there will be no codes generated automatically for you, and at that point in time you will need to create your own from scratch. But the same looking screen, there's a couple differences though, that in the expense codes you're probably never going to control these. There might be a few of you companies out there that need to control these via schedule, but most of the time they're not controlled via schedule. They're controlled strictly because it is what it is at the time of the expense. I go out and I buy a hamburger while I'm on the job site. I go to McDonald's, it might be $5. I go to some nicer restaurant, it might be $8. But either way, I need an expense code for a hamburger or for a meal. So again, this is very important in my opinion. When we talked about before the code and subsection of these codes, I highly recommend that you utilize the code and sub, especially in the expense code section. Again, just like the activity codes though, it does not require a sub, only code is required. So with that being said, some of the codes that you might use, for example, we might do a lot of traveling, and in traveling, we might do some meals, and I don't know the cost. It's a dynamic cost, as I just talked about. If I go to McDonald's, it's one rate. If I go to In-N-Out, it's another way. I go to Jack in the Box, it's another rate. I go to 5-star burger, it's a whole other different rate. So we would just leave the cost simply at 0. Sometimes you guys have a markup percent that you guys do for your expenses. Definitely throw that in there. Again, this is a percentage field, it's not a value field. So go ahead and throw that in there. And billable, blah, blah, blah. We'll go ahead and go through and click it out. Now, remember, excuse me, all of these screens and all of BillQuick is all about tracking profit analysis and all that fun stuff. So for example, you might do like printing and production, right? And you might do copies of something, copy of a 5x12 or whatever that you make a copy of, blueprint copy, A4 or something, I don't know. So with that copy, it might be a black and white copy, and you charge, it costs you guys, it doesn't cost you next to nothing, maybe a cent to 2 cents maximum for the cost. If you consider the toner, the electricity, everything else, maybe a 2 cents is what it costs you. And then, but you charge out to your customers like 45 cents or 50 cents per copy. Now here's a very, very important thing. I could just simply type 45 cents in here and go through, but my analytics is completely incorrect now. Because right now I'm saying it cost me 45 cents, and I billed at 45 cents, and therefore I didn't make any profit off that copy, which is completely ludicrous and completely incorrect. So the way that you can do it a little bit differently, a little tip from me to you, is, let's say it cost you 5 cents, just for the heck of it, okay? 5 cents. And then you want to bill out at 50 cents, let's say. So we can add a 50 cents markup. Now, the way that you have to do this, you can use BillQuick to take advantage of this. I'm going to show you how. So even without having a project in place, I'm going to go ahead and click on, out of here. I'm going to go to time expense, enter expense, expense log. I'm going to go and choose an employee. I'm just going to go quickly through this. We're not going to teach you how to enter expenses fully here. Choose an employee. Choose a date. Skip over projects. You don't have any right now. Choose your production copy that you just created. And here, go ahead and in the amount section, type in 50 cents. Click out of it on the markup section, and you'll notice that it marked it up for you. Check it out. And it gave you the accurate percent. You can now take that accurate percent, write it on down, go back to the expense codes, type in that new accurate percent of 900, or do the math manually on a calculator, completely up to you, and boom, there you go. When you put in something now in the future, it will be 900% markup on a 5% cost, which will equate to 50 cents billable. And now when you do reporting, you'll have accurate analytics. So very important on how you do the cost and markup, right? So the cost and markup may just be the difference between what you cost you and you mark it up. A lot of people don't show their markup on their invoice. Some of people do, but most people just show what the final cost to the customer is and not their internal cost. Remember, on this screen, we're talking about internal cost, not what your billable value is. Your billable value is always your internal cost multiplied by the markup value, plus taxes if you have taxes on expenses. So remember that. Your billable value, again, is always your cost, your internal cost, in this case, this cost column, multiplied by your markup percent, plus taxes if you have them. Okay? Now, we can also tax by line entry here, so by item, but a lot of times most taxes are generated at a client level, project level, or state level. I know in Canada, for example, if you're in an Indian reservation area, you cannot bill taxes on expenses. You're not supposed to bill it. It's completely tax-free. But if you're outside of that, it's like a 7.5% or something like that tax for any expense. So keep that in mind. Make sure that you go ahead and put the tax in accordingly. And again, most of the time it's controlled by a project and not necessarily by the expense itself. Okay? So again, you can see just between these codes, it's very, very helpful to have a code and a sub delineating to make it easier for me as an employee when I go to enter in my expense to pick it on up. Hopefully this guys helped you out, and if you have any questions, again, leave a comment below. If you like the video, smash on that like button. If you dislike the video, you know what to do. And as always, make sure you hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you on the next video.